here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to do some watercoloring. About 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, I posted some photos that I took at my sister's garden on my blog, The Frugal Crafter. I'll put a link below. And this one that we're going to do was the most requested, and it is a coneflower or an echinacea in front of a picket fence. So I'm going to start by drawing the center of the echinacea with a watercolor pencil. You can draw it with a regular pencil. If you don't have watercolor pencils, that's fine. And I'm just going to put the stem down. I'm a little froggy this morning, sorry about that. Goodness gracious. And then I'm going to draw the some petals here. Just kind of put them in there around that center piece. And I like using the watercolor pencils just because they are a lot easier to get rid of the lines afterwards. And I can kind of draw darker for you guys to see. But you know, you don't have to have these. These are some of the Primo ones, which are pretty affordable as far as watercolor pencils go, so I do recommend them. They're good quality. I also like anything by Derwent. Derwent is good too. Alright, now that we've got the basic shape of the flower in, I want to put the fence in, and I'm just going to get this kind of crossbar here going so I can kind of get that mapped out. And then we've got the pickets going up, kind of at a weird angle. And the pickets go over the cross posts. Just want to give it the impression of it there. I'm not going to get too fussy with that drawing. I just want to get somewhat reasonable thing in there. And so let's see, this is where I'm curving it. I want to move it just off because on my photo I had the picket right behind this flower, and I didn't think that was as pleasing as having it just slightly offset. Have a little asymmetrical, would look a little bit better. So I'm moving my picket over just a touch in case you notice that from the from the photo that it's not exactly the same. And I'm going to put my last one over here. And I like starting off with really broad gestural drawings because I don't have to worry so much about details at this point. If you want, you could draw it on tracing paper first, and then transfer it over with some graphite paper. Okay, now this may look really messy to you, but I just wanted to get the basic shapes in here. Alright, so now I'm going to grab a brush. You can use a flat brush or a juicy round brush. I've got a 1/2 inch Princeton Neptune filbert, and I'm going to add it to the background here. It's okay if you get into the edge of your fence a little bit, or if you get into the flower a little bit, but basically I want to wet the background areas so I can put in just a little bit of you know, some background wash. I'm going to keep it pretty light, so I'm not trying to go over the flower, but if it does pull out some of that color, it's not a big deal. I don't really want it to go over the fence. I really want it to go around, but it's okay to soften up those edges because I don't really want the hard lines either. Okay, I'm going to add some sap green to my palette. I'm using Cotman colors here. Today I was going to use my core, but my palette got a little messed up when my kids used it, so I probably am going to end up rinsing it out and restarting, but I only had a little bit of each of those colors out anyway, so it's not a big deal. But I like to work from dry color over wet color. I'm also going to grab, I think I'm going to use cobalt this time, cobalt blue instead of ultramarine. I just felt like I want that that kind of blue today. Get that in there. Nothing too deliberate here. I mean, nothing too bold, I guess. And since I've got so many little segments here, I can kind of skip around a little bit. I'm gonna actually, you know what? I think I'm gonna scribble some of this color off onto my palette since I used it to sketch. I'm gonna just put a few little dots of that pink. Let me work in a little bit of my rose color too, just to I like to add some of those, all the colors I'm planning on using into the background. Helps it stay nice and harmonious. So now I'm wetting the background over here. Hopefully today goes better than yesterday. I was having very much difficulty in the studio, you know, with, you know, everything. Yesterday's video was a little rough, I have to say. But I loved reading the comments. I am not alone, apparently, in the craft room struggles, which is nice. It's nice. The muse was not with me yesterday. You know, what I ended up doing is after yesterday's video, I'm just like, you know what? It just isn't happening. I went upstairs and I cleaned my refrigerator out, which is probably a good thing because it was in desperate need of a cleaning out. So, yay to not having food poisoning. I like to, even though I'm working from Panza colors, I still like to swirl it on my palette just to make sure I don't have any like streaks or lumps or bumps or anything. Little tip for you there. I don't mind the blooms in the background because it's just going to give a little texture and stuff to it. So up to you whether you mind it or not. And this, I feel like this needs to be fatter, so I'm actually going to just kind of wash that out and let it dry. There. Alright, I get a couple little spots in here to do, because our fence is kind of on at a little bit of an angle. Just want to get a little bit of that in there. And do the green. Whoa, see, I just flung my little pan of color out there. I think I also want to add a little bit of burnt sienna in there too. Some nice neutrals working in here. A little bit up there too, just to help bring it around. Alright, and now I want to let this dry before moving on. So I'm going to dry it with my hair dryer and we'll be back. Okay, that's dry. Now I'm going to mix up some gray for the fence. So I'm going to use the cobalt since I've already used that. And I'm also going to use some of the ultramarine, I'm going to use some of the burnt sienna. I get kind of a weathered wood color here. If it goes too green, I could add a little bit of that rose color, but I think it's going to be alright. And I'm going to do this back tine of the fence first. I haven't done a watercolor video in a while, it occurred to me. It's been over a week. Hasn't it? It seems like it's been a while. I don't know if I should tell you why or not. Okay, so I will. Although I don't want to I'm not going to call anybody out, but I do a lot of tutorials. I do daily tutorials. A lot of my my people are beginners, and so a lot of my tutorials are beginner tutorials, and I just got a comment that was kind of mean, I thought, and I was thinking, well, maybe I won't put any more tutorials out then. So I guess I have my nose bent out of shape a little bit. But then I realized, you know, I don't know the tone of voice. I don't know, you know, you can't really tell the intention of what somebody said in a comment. It might not have meant to be mean. It may have just come out that way. So I'm trying to be open-minded. It's so hard though. But it makes you think of, like, you know, it's so easy to take things the wrong way when you're only reading. You're not seeing like the tone of somebody's voice or whatnot. But then you start, you know, as a creator on YouTube, you kind of think, well, geez, maybe I shouldn't be doing tutorials. Maybe I am awful. But I got over it, as you can see. Because I was actually going to do this tutorial yesterday, and then what I ended up doing was kind of just my warm-up thing. Those little tags that I made, and then just like, wow, it's just not happening. And part of that could have been, you know, that how you always have that like nasty comment. That's what will be in your brain. You know, that's what. Piece of credit card here is what I'm using. I'm just going to put some wood grain in here just by scratching it in. It's what stays with you. You know, it's hard to. I don't know. Not everybody's going to dig what I'm doing. Not everybody's going to like it. I don't like letting it bother me. You know, I mean, I try not to. I try to just, you know, overcome it. I'm just going to do that just to weather that wood a little bit. And now I'm going to paint the other parts. My eye's been twitching. Oh my gosh, I think I'm dehydrated. I have to make a point of drinking water. Yesterday I woke up and, you know, I was working on the computer without my glasses for quite a while. And then my eye was twitching like crazy. It's like, okay, go put your glasses on, walk the dog. But, you know, I don't think to drink water. I drink coffee and tea. I'm not like a cool beverage person. And last night I was, there's one show I watch every week. Well, it depends on the season, but if a show is on TV, I like to watch it when it comes out, when everybody else is watching it, or I don't know why. I guess I like that community experience of knowing there are other people watching it too. But anyway, I watch Under the Dome, and totally different from the book. If you guys have read the book, it's completely different. It's so funny how different it is. But anyway, I like both. So I'm watching it, although this season is not my favorite, but I'm watching it and my eye was just going crazy. My eye was twitching like crazy. I probably should go to the eye doctor and have it looked at. I haven't had an exam in a while because my prescription hasn't changed or anything, but and I do not like going to the doctors. I mean, my eye doctor is lovely and all, but it's like I just do not like it. Now, so I'm trying to actually make kind of like a wood grain here, wood grain pattern. You know how, like, you know, fences, I don't know if it's cedar or what, but they get kind of splitty. And I also want some trendier glasses. My glasses are just kind of like old lady glasses. They're gold. Well, they're gold. They're very light. I have very light features. I don't like to have anything too dark. So you can kind of see that wood grain. See, it does kind of look like splitty wood grain, I think. But everyone's got these cute kind of nerdy dark frame glasses, and I kind of like them. They're cute, but I don't know if I can pull them off. But anyway, I need a prescription. Well, I need to get my prescription because I can't find mine. So even though it hasn't changed, it means I'm going to have to go to the eye doctor and get a new prescription. I hate going to the doctor. Really, really gives me a lot of anxiety. I'm very anxious about the follow-up mammogram doctor stuff I have to do next month. Do not want to do it. I think one of the things that makes me so nerved up about it is just you just don't know what you're in for. You don't know, like, you don't know how much they're charging you until you get the bill in the mail. You don't know anything, you know. It's just, they hold all the cards. That's what I do not like about it. That's why I'd rather go to WebMD and look up what ails me. I know, isn't that awful? But that's how it is. That's how I feel about it. I don't like it. It's always a big inconvenience. I never feel like I'm getting my money's worth. It's always just a pain. And you're walking into the hospital, all those germs everywhere. I couldn't be a nurse. Not at all. Stressful. Stressful, stressful. I wouldn't want to be around people and all their... I wouldn't want to be around all that stress all day long because it's stressful. People are stressed out when you're at the hospital. It's stressful going to the hospital. I don't like not being in control and not having the knowledge, and I think that's what it is. It's like the gatekeepers have all the knowledge and you're just kind of there, you know, hoping they'll share it with you. And they don't always. They like to keep you in the dark, it seems like. Not my eye doctor so much, but all the other ones. It seems like they do. I don't like that. I want to know what's going on. That's not fair. Alright, so, because I'm all about information sharing. That's like one of my things. I'm doing the same technique that I was just doing to the other one. Trying to get all the, and we're actually putting physical, not only is it the look of texture, we're actually putting physical texture in because we are scribing the paper. So whatever washes, whatever we do on top of this afterwards is going to pull out this texture. So make sure whatever you're doing, you want to show, because it's going to show. It's going to be there. Probably find some cool, like maybe steel brushes or something that would give you really cool texture around your home and everything. So there we get that middle tine done. I think it looks quite woody. And then we're going to do this last one over here. We're going to begin by wetting it again. If you get any, if you had any rough edges, you had some background getting where you didn't want it, just kind of brush over that. Hopefully it will. Oh, look at that. My fence post did not quite meet. I'm going to have to redo that background area, but that's not a big deal. Not at all. Just got to paint a little bit more in there after. Now if you find a little area that's not coming up so easily, you can use a stiffer brush. Like, let's see, I got this firmer synthetic one here, I can just kind of wiggle in there. It's not going to damage a paper because it's still too soft for that, but I can kind of push out some of that mistake there. And I'm going to go in with my grays, put that in there, and we'll glaze a little bit more shadow on the cross brace so that it will stand out a little bit. So don't worry about that. Mixing our grays here. I hope that color mixing video I did for you guys, the color wheel one, was helpful a couple weeks ago. I had been asked by a lot of people to do that, and also the brush basics video. Hopefully that, I know it was an overview, it's really hard to impart enough information in a 20-minute video, you know, that you might take like a whole class to impart. You know, normally it certainly is a challenge because, you know, people want the information really, really quick, and you want to give it to them really, really quick, and sometimes it's just not how it works out. Alright, so I know I'm going to be able to see part of this edge of that fence, so I'm just actually kind of sketching that in with my scraper. And what I like to do is try to find some interesting grain pattern that I see. Oh, I got a knot here, so I'm going to put that knot in with my scraper tool. And then the other grain will go around kind of the knot. I like the credit card scraper. It gives you a lot of options. I'm contemplating a YouTube creator trip. I was very excited about it when I first heard about it, but then I was thinking, then the more I think about it, of course, the more I think, people, the city, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can cope. I'm just a head case, what can I say? There we go. I know you get a little bit of psychiatric help. No, not really. Probably not help. Help is the wrong word. You get a little something psychiatric when you watch my videos. Help is probably not what you're getting, though. We all have our anxieties. Although it makes me feel better when other people say, oh yeah, I'm nervous about that too. I did survive my trip to Boston last weekend with the Girl Scouts. That's good. I was extremely nervous about that one. Mixed traveling to a big city with 13 children. Granted, other, you know, everyone had their parents with them, so it wasn't, you know, insane, but, you know, any more insane than it, you know, than just being in Boston is, because it's so busy. Nothing against Boston, it's just holy cow busy compared to, you know, where I live, Smallville. So I just rinsed off my brush, and then I squeezed out the water so I could just kind of spread the shadowy color around a little bit. I should have probably waited for this part to dry. I think I'm just looking to see if I want to add any darker splashes of color. I think I'm going to dry this and come back and do a little bit more on the fence posts and work on the flower. Alright, I think I actually want to jump ahead and work on the flower a bit, because then we can always tweak the background. I'm going to switch to a number 8 round. I'm still using the Princeton Neptunes because I like them, but you can use whatever you like. Sometimes these can be a little too juicy for a beginner, like they hold a lot of water, and I know that's not easy to deal with for a lot of beginners. I'm using a little bit of yellow ochre, and I'm going to go ahead and paint in the top part of the Echinacea. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab some of the rose and some of the blue. And I'm going to do the bottom. So like when you're using these brushes, because they mimic a natural hairbrush, they can be a little too soft and juicy, and you might end up with more water and less pigment, so you need to kind of be aware of that. I think I want a little bit more. I'm going to put some brown in there too, actually. Warm it up a little bit of that brown. And I'm going to throw in, make a dark with the cobalt and the rose. Let's see how dark of a purple I can get there. I don't know if I can get a super dark one because I'm not using ultramarine, but I think that's probably dark enough. Just want to get some of that in there as well. I think they're seeds in the on the top of the Echinacea. Echinacea is supposed to be really good for cold and your immune system. I'd know because I am super mistrustful of the medical profession, and so I know all about the natural healing things. Isn't that awful? I'm gonna have nurses and doctors watching saying, like, Lindsay, you're just a nutcase. You need a different kind of doctor. Oh, true, true. What can I say? Alright, and then I'm going to use my credit card scraper just to do quick little flicks to kind of... It's going to do two things. It'll push some of the pigment away and give me little highlights. It'll scrape into the paper and give me shadows. So it just kind of does everything I need it to do. So that's why I'm using it. So see, I've got all these little spiky bits, okay? That's what I want it to look like it's spiky. Can you see that good? Hopefully. I know it's wet. Sometimes it glares. Alright, again, this photo is on my blog. I'll put a link to it so you can go check it out. Alright, so now let's get the stem done. I think I'm going to use actually a stiffer brush to smooth out the edges. I'm just using this, like, these are great. These are kids Royal Nickel, just like the kids synthetic brushes. They're actually really good quality, and they're cheap. I'm actually going to use this to soften out that line and just kind of give myself a place for my green to go. I want the stock to be fairly thick and smooth. So I'm just lifting a little bit. Never wipe your paper with a paper towel. If you do have to go in and blot some off, press down, lift up, don't rub it. Hope this isn't going too slow for anybody. I'm probably worried too much about pleasing everybody because I know it's not possible, and yet I just want to be loved. Just want to please everybody. Oh, I'm sure if anybody watching this is a YouTuber, you completely understand, right? Alright, so now what we're going to do is grab some of that sap green. I'm just leaving that kind of damp. I think it's about perfect for dampness. Oh, I'll show you my... I think I haven't used this palette in a while. I think it's still available. It's a bit on the pricey side nowadays, but it's the 36 set of Cotman watercolors, and then I just fill it with my tube M Graham paints when they get low. So I just wanted to show you that because I always have somebody ask about my palette, and I don't always remember to show it. I really like the M Graham paints as far as watercolors go. They're cheaper than Winsor & Newton. I like them better. I know Winsor & Newton has beautiful watercolors. Please don't get me wrong. They are fantastic, but I prefer these because they're designed to be squeezed into palettes and let dry, and that's how I like to paint. And I mean, you can do that with other paints. Some manufacturers will say don't do it with their paints because they say it's not going to be as vibrant. I've never really had an issue with good quality paints if I've squeezed them and let them dry, but M Grahams have honey in them and they're designed for that. So yeah, I like them. I think I might have actually damaged my paper a little bit when I was scrubbing, and I'll show you what that looks like. And I think some of you guys have had that. I know some of you guys have had this issue because you've told me about it. I'm going to add a touch of burnt sienna into this too because I think it will add a nice warm shadow to it. Help pull it away from the background. So I know some of you guys have had this issue, and I just want to show you what it looks like. I don't know if you can see it too well because this is pretty nice paper. It's a Fabriano, I do believe. But sometimes it'll see little specks where you've kind of abraded the edge of the paper and it's kind of pilled up on you. That happens. Some paper is good for reworking like that. Arches is very good for that. Some paper can't take it. So, you know, you'll get to know your paper and what's good for what purposes. Now I'm just going to go ahead and wet my petals. I'm going to just kind of liquefy any of the watercolor pencil pigment I have there. I'll put a link to these watercolor pencils as well at Hallmark Scrapbook. They have the best prices on them, however they are sold out a lot. If you do order from Hallmark, I do get a small percentage of the sale, just so you know. I just like to be upfront with that because, you know, I just think it's the right thing to do. And I'm just going to dissolve the rest of this pigment, and I might need to go in with that brush again and, you know, refine my edges so you can kind of see some places where I've got some background going where I don't want it. So I'm going to go back in with this yellow flat brush, any flat synthetic. If you use a hog bristle brush, those are much more abrasive, so if you've got a paper that wants to be, you know, wants to pill on you, go with a synthetic like this, one of the like soft nylon brushes. I might actually blot there a little bit. But there was a lot of pigment in that pencil that I sketched with. That's why I like the Primas, because I like the Albrecht Dürers by Faber-Castell, but they're so expensive. I like Derwent's. They're a more moderately priced one, but the Primas are nice quality and reasonably priced. So Reeves are also, and I've seen the Reeves at like my big box craft store. Their watercolor pencils are nice quality and very inexpensive. They wear down a lot quicker than the Primas, but you know, if you're just looking to see if you like it, or just to do some, you know, basic sketching on your paintings before you begin, an absolutely great buy. And I don't get any perk on mentioning that, but you know, I get the perk of having happy subscribers, and well, that's what I want. That's my most important perk. I don't withhold information. I share because I care. And, you know, I can see doctor's points. I'm not going to get a malpractice lawsuit if you use paint that you don't like, you know. So, you know, I totally get that. I'm just being my normal anxiety-ridden mess of a self. Okay, so now I want to add a little color to these flowers. I'm also going to be using my credit card scraper. Get a little bit of that rose. It's also easier to get your paint onto your palette with a synthetic because it doesn't hold so much water, so you can get a darker color on your palette. So sometimes it's nice just to have these for those, even if you're not going to paint with them, just for the benefits that they provide, like that. Alright, so I am going to also get a little bit of the cobalt blue. I'm using the same cobalt. If I say ultramarine, I mean cobalt. I'm so used to using ultramarine. I'm just doing a little something different this time because I wanted a softer, less intense blue. And I'm going to start up near the center of my flower. And I'm just kind of very gently letting the tip of the brush caress the paper and just deposit some kind of detailed shadow crinkly lines. I'm kind of like sculpting out the picture. You know, I'm kind of like redrawing almost. And if it turns out that I don't need to add any more pink to it because there's enough residual from the pencils, then fantastic. I've just, you know, made my job a little easier. If I do, not a big deal. But I want to get that look of the light hitting the petals the way that it did when I took these pictures. I took these with my camera phone. I was very impressed. I'm not very good with mobile technology, and my husband convinced me to get a smartphone, and it's a track phone. I saw it actually on Home Shopping Network, which isn't something I watch, but I was flipping through and I was kind of thinking that I wanted something like that so I wouldn't have to lug my video camera and laptop and stuff to a convention. And so I ordered it. It was a good buy, and I was surprised at how well this works. And I haven't figured out how to get my old contacts into my new phone, which is a little troubling. I don't want to sit down and type everything because I don't like typing things, and maybe I should just hire somebody to do that. Maybe are there people out there that would do that? If I call the temp agency, can I get somebody to update my phone? Oh, maybe the voice I like the voice recognition. So if you ever get any weird replies from me, I've probably replied on my phone using voice recognition. So that's the thing I do love about it, because I don't have to type when I use that. Alright, so, which means I have to talk slower and more clearly, so it's probably good practice. Alright, so I'm going to leave that to dry, and I'm going to skip over to one of our little fence places. I think I want to do this edge here because that's a little shadowed and a little bit darker, so I'm going in with my cobalt. I have to keep stopping myself from saying ultramarine. Back with my cobalt, and I'm just going to give this on the edge here. Gosh, we've been painting for half an hour. This is relaxing. I've been stressed out. This is so nice. Thank you guys for painting with me today. I have to say that I know I griped a little bit about getting a comment that I took as a little mean, which I don't even know if it was meant to be mean or not. And I always feel I shouldn't complain about anything because I'm so darn lucky that you guys watch at all. But thank you guys for being here and for watching and for painting with me and for supporting me and commenting, and it's so nice. I don't feel like I deserve it. I'm very grateful to all of you. Thank you guys. Really, seriously. I hope you're getting enough out of these lessons to know how much I appreciate you. Okay, I want to also put a little shadow on this side here, because right here you can't really see the side of this tine of the fence. Isn't really separated from that crossbar, so I want to put a little shadow on the crossbar going back in. Now if you want to mix it darker, let me just show you here. You want that gray darker, I'll bring my palette right over. I'm taking this cobalt with a synthetic brush because it's a little rougher and tougher. It's not going to hold so much water, and it's going to help me pull out more paint. And then I can grab the ultramarine with this, and it's just not going to have so much water in it because I'm using a stiffer brush. So that's also another little tip for you for getting too much water in your paint. I know that's kind of a tip a lot of beginners, or a problem that a lot of beginners have, is too much water. So I almost don't recommend the Princeton Neptunes for beginners just because they hold so much water. If you're not used to it, it can give you some trouble. Royal Aquilons are fantastic. They don't, and so are the Majestics. They don't hold as much water. They're also really good. I really like them too. Sometimes it does feel like my Neptunes have too much water because I'm not that used to using like a Kolinsky, because personal reasons I don't use sables, but or I don't buy sables. I have a few in my collection, so I'm much more used to the synthetic brushes anyway. So hopefully that worked to pull that side out a little bit. I want to match that shadow over here. So you kind of work in one place, but then you look at the whole picture and see what does it need over here, what does it need over there. I hope I'm not going too slow for you guys. I haven't done a long format painting tutorial in a while. I've been speeding it up a lot, and I just wanted to make sure you guys were getting those longer videos where I can explain a little bit more, especially for those of you that want to build your skills or want just a little bit more help in painting. Okay, now I can see, because when I look at the monitor I actually can see better, and that's a tip. Not look in the monitor because you're probably not filming yourself painting, but a tip would be to look at it the next day. It's really hard to tell what you're doing, if it's working when you're in the middle of it. You may think something looks awful, and then when you go and look at it the next day it looks great. So here what I'm doing is, remember those scratchy lines we made? I'm actually going over them with that gray paint, so I can build up the layer, and it's going to help it look weathered. And another thing that you can do that, you know, you may think is cheating, but I think that if it makes your painting better, then there's nothing wrong with it. Then it just becomes a mixed media painting and not a watercolor, not just a straight watercolor painting. But something you can do that works really well is using your colored pencils over your watercolors. So if you ever feel like, geez, I wish I could put a highlight there, but I've already painted there and I can't remove that paint without making it super awkward and messy looking, go ahead and use your use colored pencils, even if all you have is Crayolas, or prangs are actually really good. You can go right in there. You can add a little white to the edge. You can add a little, you know, highlight here or there. You can make it work. Like I've just noticed here that my fence is a lot skinnier than the one in my photograph. Oh well. I don't know if that's anything I really want to bother with, but you know, something to think about. Now if that looks too dark, then I can go through and I can soften some of those. Maybe with a little bit stiffer of a brush. Go back and I can soften a few of those up, so it looks a little bit more natural. So you're kind of doing a little dance between additive and subtractive painting. You're adding a little, you're taking a little away. You can always blot it with a crunched up paper towel for texture, like if I want to just kind of, just to give it a little bit of extra texture. And now I'm going to do the same thing to these others. That one had the most wood grain in it, the most definition, so I really wanted to get that done. I'm going to go ahead and do this to some of the others as well. This one didn't have quite so much. Add a little water to that because it feels a little dark for what I'm doing. And even just any sort of wash over this is going to make those scratchy lines appear darker, because remember we talked about damaging the paper, and so it's going to sink into those areas a little bit more. We are damaging the paper. We did it on purpose. Oh, I think I want to put a knot down here. I just noticed a pretty knot in the wood, so I'm going to add that in. Hope I'm not mumbling. I sound kind of mumbly. I kind of get lost in the painting and then get a little mumbly. I'm going to paint that knot in there. Weathered wood is pretty. Oh, I can hear somebody upstairs in the bathroom. I bet they're going to flush a toilet and the water pump's going to come on. We haven't had a good water pump moment, have we, in a while? I know I've been doing the professional thing in editing. Yeah, I might have to pause it in a minute. So, I will, if I have to. Because boy, that's loud. It's awfully loud. I think I want to soften that a little bit, so I'm going to go back in with this stiffer brush and just soften that. I'm going to leave that knot because I like that knot. I'm going to soften everything else a little bit though. Oh, there's a furnace. I think I will pause it and we'll come back after things stop making noise down here. Okay, things quieted down here. I'm going to add a little highlight to the edge of this this fence post. So what I'm doing is using that stiff brush, and I'm just kind of wiggling it around, and notice how I've turned my paper so I can really approach it at a comfortable angle. It's very important to do that because you don't want to be, if you're not comfortable the way you're getting in there with your brush, chances are it's going to slip or it's going to look awkward. You're not going to get those smooth lines that you want. I'm just going to go in here, give this a little bit of a highlight along the edge, just wiggling it back and forth with a synthetic brush. Here we go. And blot it off. Okay, oh my goodness, there's a mosquito on my picture. It must think it's a real flower. Okay, and oh, it's gotten cold. It's gotten cold. Surprise! In Maine, it's gotten cold. Newsflash, guys. I'm gonna do a little bit of yellow ochre because I've already used that color, and I just feel like I want to warm this up a little bit here on the edge. So I'm just very watered yellow ochre here. I will sharpen it up a little bit after it dries. I just didn't want that starker white. I wanted it to have a little bit of warmth. Alright, I'm just seeing if any other place needs a little bit of that. Maybe over here a little bit. Just super, super light. It's hardly perceptive. I don't know if you can even see on the monitor, but it's just to give it a little bit of warmth. Just a little bit. I think yellow ochre is kind of a magic color. It kind of, well, it kind of makes things look like the golden hour, you know. It gives you that, just that warmth, and it's not an obtrusive color. It's easy to lift, so if you don't like it, you can lift it away most of the time. It's a very inexpensive color too, which is good because I go through that probably more than anything else because it's an iron-based pigment. There we go. Okay, now we can put our final touches on the flower. I'm pretty happy. I did throw a couple nail holes in there while the furnace was on. So, you know, just basically little circles with my gray mix. Now I'm going to do a little more to the flowers, and I'm debating whether or not I want to do that with this or switch to a less absorbent brush, but we'll try this since I have it out. I'm going to just mix some water in with that rose and cobalt mixture that I have there, and I am just going to pull up some washes from the tips of the petals up towards the center. Maybe a little more rose. Maybe that blue is just too dirty of a color. I might just want the rose because I already have some of the blue in there. And again, turn your paper. So what do you think? Would this have been better as a speed painting? I'm kind of torn. I mean, the speed paintings are kind of nice because you get to watch it and get through it quickly. But then again, and it's quicker to upload on my end because I'm out in the country and the internet is not the fastest. But then again, I want to make sure you're getting what you want to get. And I know a lot of you guys don't have classes nearby where you live because you're out in the country too. You know, I know it's helpful to be able to take a class that's, you know, about real time, how I would teach a class, and be able to benefit that way. So I know there are pros and cons to each, but what do you think? Once in a while, a long one. Once in a while, a speed paint. Once in a while, a quick and easy. Once in a while, a more difficult. I try to end up doing the same kind of video for a while. And then I also notice sometimes I try putting too much into a painting and it doesn't look better. It looks worse, not better. When I do it, it'll look better if I stopped like a few steps earlier. I'm adding a little bit of that color into the bottom of my flower, just flicking it up just to give it some depth. And maybe I'll just put just a little bit of that on the edge of my flower too. On the edge of my stem, rather. Okay, I do want to define the edge of that. Sorry if that broke off weird a second ago. My camera started a new file. The only thing I don't like about this camera is after 20 minutes it starts a new file. But I love everything else about it. It's a Samsung H90, I think. Gosh, I don't even know if they're still available. I got this like 3 years ago. I use it every day and it's still going strong. So I'm just re-sharpening up the edge of my post. Not like before the front face of the post, not the highlighted area. The highlighted area is staying. If you had a hard time with that, that's where I would recommend using the colored pencil to bring that bright out if you didn't get that crisp line that you wanted. So that's why I had talked about that. This side looks like it needs... Now see how this, after a while, like this, they don't want to spring back these synthetic ones that are supposed to mimic squirrel hair or Klinsky sable. So then in that case I recommend and I'm sorry that I am not doing a darn thing on screen. I'm trying to find a brush that I want. Oh my gosh, and I'm not having very much luck, but I'll grab this one right here. This is one of the kids ones, but it has better snap because it's it's a regular synthetic, not a synthetic one that's supposed to be like a squirrel one. So Neptunes might not be the best for detail just because they don't have the rigidity. So I'm just going to go in and just kind of round that up. There we go. Maybe just add a little water to kind of soften that. It's a little dark there on the edge. I want a crisp edge, but I don't want it to be like an outline. You know what I mean? Know what I mean, Vern? That's an old one. There's a catchphrase from the 80s you don't hear every day. There we go. And let's see, any other finishing touches on this one? I feel like it needs to be a little rounder in here. So I'm just gonna round it out a little bit. Grab a little yellow ochre too, I think. Let the sun hit that part of the fence. Gentle blot. And any place I don't have a very straight line, I'm just going to go in and reform it a little bit. And you just couldn't really do that very well with the Neptunes because it just doesn't have the stiffness to it. And I lifted way more paint out than I intended to. I think it's going to be alright. Let's work it back and forth until I feel like I've got a nice sharp line. And I feel like that line should go up to here. And that should be where it's curving back in. Not that it's really a huge deal because you've got that flower in there which kind of detracts a little bit. And I think that the one on the end is pretty good. I'm not worried about that one too much. I think that's alright. Okay, and there we have it. I'm pretty happy with this. I'm going to sign my name as soon as I turn off the camera. I want to thank you so much for watching and sticking with me through this long tutorial. Please give me a thumbs up and share this video with all your friends. And hey, if you're still looking for more painting tutorials, I've got lots of them, hundreds in fact. Go check out my other painting tutorials on my channel. I would appreciate it. And thanks so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.